Hey, everybody, welcome back to Winamac Hockey. Today we have some news in the NHL. Ryan McDonagh has been sent from the Tampa Bay Lightning, and he's going to the Nashville Predators. Jake and I are going to break it down in this video. Let's get to it. All right, guys, before we get started, just want to give a little bit of a shout out here. We are currently at 284 subs as we film this video. We're 16 away from 300, so please consider subscribing, and thank you all for your support. Now, let's get to it here, Jake. Ryan McDonagh has been sent over to Nashville in exchange for Grant Mismash, I believe is how you pronounce that. Could be completely wrong, my bad. And also for Filip Myers. So it seems like Tampa just had to get rid of some cap space. Unfortunate, but that's what happens when you win the Stanley Cup in back-to-back seasons. So, Jake, let's talk about, who wins the trade here, and does this benefit both teams in the long run?
Yeah, so I think let's start with what Tampa got in return, because I think that's the less well-known part of this. They got that mismatch guy, and they got Filip Myers. And Filip Myers plays defense, so he basically fills in that McDonagh role if he stays on the team. But then that other guy plays left bench because he is not good. He was drafted in 2017, and he has very, very few games. He hasn't done anything very special. He actually plays left wing, but he won't be playing that with the Tampa Bay Lightning. I'll tell you that right now. On the other end, Ryan McDonagh is a solid acquisition, but the guy's making almost $7 million. He should not be making that at 33 years old, and he's still got that contract for several more years going past this season. So it makes sense for Tampa to move on from him, but Nashville is getting a very good defender, and they have the room to spare.
Yeah, Nashville with this acquisition still has 18 mil, which is crazy to think about. And like you said, I mean, Tampa just couldn't afford to keep McDonagh around. With that move, they sit right at the top max of the salary cap. They're actually still a little bit over by about 900,000. So, Jake, what does this mean for Nashville? We know that last year everyone had kind of low expectations for them, but they made the playoffs. Unfortunately, met the wrath of Colorado in the first round. But this shows that they are really committed to getting back into the playoffs and hopefully getting some better success. So how does McDonagh help solidify their chances of getting further into the playoffs?
So I think you look back to when Nashville was in, say, the Stanley Cup final, and they like that style where you have three high-profile defenders back when they had Subban, and they've still got Ekholm and Yossi on this team. They wanted to add that third piece, and that's where McDonagh comes in. And if you look at the age gap here, he's perfect for that core because McDonagh's 33, Yossi's 32, Ekholm's 32. And then you also have Duchesne, who is 31. So they've got an older core. They're trying to win with it. And I, for one, had them last in the division on my preseason ranking. I did not think Nashville had a chance, and they ended up proving me wrong. So I think it's the right move to go in with McDonagh, especially since they still have $18 million in cap space. But the big question mark is their free agents.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about that because that's obvious. This trade affects more than just these few players because Nashville, we all know that Filip Forsberg is a question mark at this point. Is he going to be back? Is he not? What do you think that this means for him? This acquisition, does this entice him to stay? Or is Nashville going to have to try to overpay to keep him?
Well, if we look a couple seasons ago to the other team involved in this trade, the Tampa Bay Lightning, Steven Stamkos, big name free agent. He makes it to free agency. Everybody's wondering where he's going to go. On free agency day or right before the free agency day started, he re-signs with Tampa. So it could be a situation like that. But for me, if I'm a Nashville fan, I'm a little nervous because Nashville has all this room to overpay him if they wanted to, and they haven't gotten a deal done yet. In addition, Forsberg remembers that they traded his good buddy Victor Arvidsson last offseason, And a lot of the members on the team, especially Forsberg, were upset about that. And from the rumors I've seen, LA could be interested in Forsberg, and they don't have as much cap available. They will lose a bidding war to Nashville, but maybe Forsberg's not so worried about the money. He's earned a lot in his career. Maybe he's still going to get a good payday from whoever signs him, but maybe he says, I'm going to go back with my buddy because I think they'll treat me better. So I think that's something that Nashville might have messed up on, which raises another question. Why did you move Arvidsson in the first place? He's a solid top 6 forward, and he was good for your locker room morale. So I'm not sure why they would move him, but I think it could be a problem when they try to re-sign their star forward, Filip Forsberg.
Yeah, when we talked about them, that was something we questioned too. And that's why we had them so low in the rankings, is because we thought they might be trying to sort of rebuild, because they also got rid of Ellis, which was a little odd as well. And then with their success this season, it's throwing us for another loop. It's like, well, what direction are they really going? And the whole Forsberg situation really will tell us here, hopefully within the next few weeks or few months. But let's kind of flip gears here over to Tampa. What does this mean for them? They have a couple of free agents. Most importantly, Palat, who is going to want a decent amount of money because he's a great player. But even moving McDonagh, you still don't have the cap. So what can Tampa do? Are they going to have to move on from him as well?
So I think in their eyes, they're looking at it as, we've got Palat as a free agent, we've got Nick Paul as a free agent, and their performance in the playoffs showed that they weren't having issues defensively so much because Vasilevsky 90% of the time can bail them out. But offensively, it seemed like they were struggling to put goals past Toronto at points, and especially Colorado in the final. And so if I'm that team, I say, if we're going to lose somebody, it cannot be any of the offense that's already struggling. So keep some of those good pieces like Nick Paul, who single-handedly beat Toronto, and to keep Palat, who's also a good piece, a core piece of that offense. I think they're going to have to move somebody like maybe that defender they just got, Myers. He's making over 2 mil, almost 3 mil. So I don't think that it makes sense to keep someone like that when you're shedding cap, because he's not that great. He's decent defensively. If a team got him and they had the extra cap room, he'd probably fit into their top 6, maybe top 4, depending on the team. But for Tampa, it just doesn't work for them. And losing my train of thought here. But Alex Killorn is another guy that I'm looking at on the front end of things, because he's making a lot of money, $4.45 million for a borderline third liner. Maybe he's playing top 9, but he's not getting any younger. And I think it might be a good time to move on from him while he still has some value.
Yeah. At this point, I'm curious how Tampa fans would look at this too, because honestly, I'm not a Tampa fan, but I loved watching Palat play for that team. He proved to be very beneficial for them in the regular season, but especially in the postseason. His postseason play is on another level. And I think that's something that if Tampa, as they try to continue their success here with the core that they have, I think that he's got to be a part of it, in my opinion. One more thing too, you mentioned potentially getting rid of their new defender in Filip Myers. Another defender that they have that they need to consider bringing back or letting go is Jan Ruda. And he was a guy that filled in for them. He played with the team a lot. Is he a guy that could potentially be a cheaper option if they decide to move Myers? And do you think that he could be the guy that steps up for them?
Yeah, at least in the playoffs, he was already on their penalty kill. So they trust him as a defender, and he's going to be on a cheap deal because he hasn't earned a higher contract, but they like him in their system enough to put him on the special teams. So I think he makes sense as their go-to defender.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So any other thoughts as a result of this trade? Obviously, Nashville, it's a great defender. They have cap. Could potentially be a way of getting Forsberg to stay. For Tampa, they're shedding the cap, trying to keep a couple of guys as they have to shift some things around before the season. So any other thoughts before we wrap up the video?
Well, I think as a Nashville fan, you have to look at this as, right now they might be thinking keep Forsberg at all costs because he's been loved on this team for so long. but I don't think it's a total loss if they lose him, because the holes I see are the depth roles. If you go past Duchesne and Forsberg, and you run out of depth. They don't have any secondary scoring really, and I think if they use the Forsberg money and they turn that $18 million in cap space into depth roles, I think they could still do just fine as long as people like Matt Duchesne keep producing.
Yep, I agree. It's definitely going to be interesting for these two teams, as they have a lot of the same intentions, but two completely different ways of going about it with their cap situation. All right. Hey, let us know in the comments below what you think of the McDonagh trade. We'd especially love to hear from the Nashville fans and the Tampa fans. We like to hear from you guys and talk hockey. So let us know what you think below, and we'll see you next time on Winamac Hockey.